Chapter 7 of the Constitution of Kenya deals with the electoral system and the representation of the people. Here's a summary of each part. Part 1, Electoral System and Process. 81. General Principles for the Electoral System. Article 81. The electoral system must uphold the freedom of citizens to exercise their political rights. Not more than 2/3 of members in elective public bodies should be of the same gender. Fair representation of persons with disabilities is essential. Universal suffrage based on the aspiration for fair representation and equality of vote is guaranteed. Free and fair elections must be conducted by an independent body, in a transparent, impartial, efficient, accurate, and accountable manner. 82. Legislation on elections. Article 82. Parliament shall enact legislation to regulate various aspects of elections, including the delimitation of electoral units, nomination of candidates, continuous voter registration, conduct of elections, and the registration of citizens residing outside Kenya. 83. Registration as a voter. Article 83. To qualify for voter registration, a person must be an adult citizen, of sound mind, and not convicted of an election offense in the past 5 years. Each eligible citizen can be registered at only one registration center, and administrative arrangements should facilitate voting rights. 84. Candidates and political parties Code of Conduct. Article 84. All candidates and political parties participating in elections must comply with the Code of Conduct prescribed by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. 85. Eligibility to stand as an independent candidate. Article 85. Any person who is not a member of a registered political party and satisfies the required qualifications can stand as an independent candidate for elections. 86. Voting. Article 86. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission must ensure that the voting system is simple, accurate, verifiable, secure, accountable, and transparent. Votes must be promptly counted, tabulated, and announced by the presiding officer at each polling station, and the results must be openly and accurately collated and announced by the returning officer. 87. Electoral disputes. Article 87. Parliament shall enact legislation to establish mechanisms for timely settling of electoral disputes. Petitions concerning elections, excluding presidential elections, must be filed within 28 days after the declaration of election results by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Chapter 7 ensures the fair and democratic representation of the people through free and fair elections and sets principles for the conduct of electoral processes. It aims to promote inclusivity, transparency, and accountability in the electoral system. Part 2 of Chapter 7 focuses on the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission and the delimitation of electoral units. Here's a summary of the key provisions. 88. Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Article 88. The EC is established as an independent body responsible for conducting or supervising elections and referenda in Kenya. Members of the Commission must not have held certain public offices or party positions within the preceding 5 years and cannot hold another public office while serving on the Commission. The functions of the EC include voter registration, revision of the voter's roll, delimitation of constituencies and wards, regulation of the nomination process for candidates, settlement of electoral disputes excluding election petitions, registration of candidates, voter education, facilitation of election observation, regulation of campaign financing, and monitoring compliance with nomination rules. 89. Delimitation of electoral units. Article 89. Kenya shall have 290 constituencies for the election of members of the National Assembly. The EC shall review the names and boundaries of constituencies at intervals of not less than 8 years and not more than 12 years. Completing the review at least 12 months before a general election. The boundaries of constituencies are designed to ensure nearly equal population representation, but some flexibility is allowed to consider geographical features, community ties, and means of communication. The EEP must consult all interested parties and work towards equalizing population sizes in constituencies and wards. The names and details of the boundaries of constituencies and wards determined by the Commission shall be published in the Gazette and come into effect after the dissolution of Parliament following their publication. Citizens have the right to apply to the High Court for review of the Commission's decisions related to delimitation. 90. Allocation of party list seats. Article 90. Seats in Parliament and county assemblies provided for under proportional representation through party lists. The EEP is responsible for conducting and supervising these elections based on party lists submitted by political parties. Each party list must have appropriate representation of male and female candidates, with alternates between genders, and reflect regional and ethnic diversity. Chapter 7 ensures fair representation and accountability in the electoral process by establishing an independent electoral body and defining the electoral units. It also promotes inclusivity and gender equality in political representation through proportional representation. Part 3 of Chapter 7 deals with political parties in Kenya. Here's a summary of the key provisions. 91. Basic requirements for political parties. Article 91. Political parties must have a national character as prescribed by an Act of Parliament. They must have a democratically elected governing body. Political parties are required to promote and uphold national unity. They must abide by democratic principles, including conducting regular, fair, and free elections within the party. All persons, including minorities and marginalized groups, have the right to participate in the political process, and political parties must respect this right. Political parties must promote and practice human rights, fundamental freedoms, gender equality, and equity. They are obligated to uphold the objects and principles of the Constitution and the rule of law. Political parties must subscribe to and observe the Code of Conduct for political parties. There are restrictions on the formation of parties based on religion, language, race, ethnicity, gender, or region, or engaging in advocacy of hatred on any such basis. Political parties are prohibited from engaging in violence, intimidation, establishing paramilitary forces, engaging in bribery or corruption, and using public resources for their promotion, except as provided by law. 92. Legislation on political parties. Article 92. Parliament is required to enact legislation to regulate various aspects of political parties, including the allocation of airtime for election campaigning, regulation of broadcasting media during elections, roles and functions of political parties, registration and supervision of political parties, establishment and management of a political party's fund, accounts, and audit of political parties, restrictions on the use of public resources to promote party interests, and any other necessary matters for the management of political parties. Chapter 7 aims to ensure that political parties operate democratically, promote national unity, and respect human rights and the rule of law. The legislation on political parties is intended to regulate their activities and ensure transparency, fairness, and accountability in the political process.